Hey guys, it's BenefitsOfaG from GE Tracker here. In today's video, I'm going to show you guys how to use our candlestick charts. Now, one disclaimer would be that if you're a new merchant and you're still getting used to our site, you're still not really sure on how to look at the charts themselves, meaning the line graphs, then I wouldn't suggest that this video is for you. I would advise that you continuously try to improve upon looking at the graphs and getting comfortable with that before you start moving on to candlestick charts. Now, for those of you who are comfortable with looking at line charts, then this is obviously the next step in information available to you as a merchant. So this is kind of getting away from that beginner stage. But one thing to keep in mind is that this chart is very much in beta. So some of the charts aren't going to be displaying as they're supposed to be displaying. And we are fully aware of this problem, and we're fully aware of, the most common bugs that this chart might give. But we are accepting any feedback that wouldn't be commonly known just by kind of playing around with the site. So keep that in mind. When you're using this chart, if you see something that looks out of the ordinary, then just kind of revert back to the line graph and use the candlestick chart graph for any other type of item that you want to look at. So to start off, I wanted to show some charts that you wanted to avoid and some charts that you could use. I feel like this is a little bit of common sense, but I know if I don't talk about it, you guys are going to bring it up in the comments down below or in our Discord chat. So here you go. On the left-hand side, we have an example of a chart where the data points are too far spaced out, and there's no information that you can really get off of this. On the right-hand side, it's quite the opposite. There's too many data points bundled up together, and it doesn't look like you can get any information off of that as well. So use your own logic, guys, to figure out, based off any charts you guys see in the future, but while using the site, whether or not these are charts you guys want to avoid or use. And here are two examples of some charts that would be okay to use. On both of these charts, it's clearly visible on what the information is being presented to us. So again, guys, use your own logic to determine whether or not a chart is viable for you to use. So what is a candlestick chart? Well, to answer that question, I'm going to be quoting a paragraph off of Investopedia, which is basically a website to help beginners in learning how to trade in the real-world financial market. So while RuneScape doesn't have the complexities of the real-world financial market, it does share some similarities. However, if you were to say that the real-world financial market is the highest level that you can achieve as a trader, then RuneScape is like first grade. So, to quote off this paragraph, in the 1700s, a Japanese man named Homa, a trader in the futures market, discovered that although there was a link between price and the supply and demand of rice, the markets were strongly influenced by the emotions of traders. He understood that when emotions played into the equation, a vast difference between the value and the price of rice occurred. This difference between the value and the price is as applicable to stocks today as it was to rice in Japan centuries ago. The principles established by Homa are the basis for the candlestick chart analysis, which is used to measure market emotions surrounding a stock. So you might be saying to yourself, who really cares? Well, it's pretty well known that candlestick charts are pretty off-putting and intimidating for obvious reasons. It's never really been used or taught anywhere else except the stock market. So I felt that it's pretty important for me to go over the fundamentals as to why this tool was invented in the first place. If we go back to the paragraph I just read, we'll learn that emotion plays a role in determining the price of any given item in any market, which is certainly true in RuneScape. Now, if you watched my previous video on the different types of merchants, you would have learned that you always want to provide yourself with the biggest edge in the market compared to anyone else. What we also learned in the paragraph I just read is that candlestick charts are great for determining and predicting short-term price movements. Again, referring to my last video, you would have learned that making predictions on any given item is something that you want to continuously work and improve upon. Now, enough about the fundamentals of a candlestick chart. Let's get into how to actually read them. So there are two different types of candlesticks out there. We have the hollow and the filled-in candlestick, and this isn't for visual preference. This actually has a valuable informational differentiation between the other one. So I've labeled it off in 5 points here on the left. Before I get into that, you'll notice that there is a long string going through the body itself and the rectangle on the chart. Now the long string is called the shadow or the wick, and the body is called, well, the rectangle is called the body. And so 1 would be the market high, number 2 is the market open, number 3 is the body, 4 is the closing price, and 5 is the market low. A hollow candlestick chart would indicate that sellers are in control, but don't let that statement confuse you. All this really means is that buyers are opening the price at a higher amount than what the item is closing for. Meaning, if I were to buy, say, iron ore for 200 GP, but it was actually closing at 190 GP, then this would become a hollow candlestick chart where you would see 2 being 200 GP and 4 being 190 GP. And of course, 1 and 5 are indications of where that market was standing throughout that entire time frame in that period. And the opposite of that, we have our solid candlestick charts. So with number 1, we have our market high, number 2 being our market close, number 3 being the market open, and number 4 being the market low. So obviously the opposite of a hollow candlestick chart, our closing price is much higher than our opening price, which would indicate that buyers are in control of the market. But again, don't let that confuse you. That's just how this is kind of stated across any type of platform when it comes to candlesticks. And this would indicate a bullish market, where if this was continuously showing on the graph with a series of solid candlesticks, then you know that the price is moving upwards. Whereas with the hollow candlesticks, if there was a series of those together, then you know that it's a bearish market and the price is moving down. To quickly reiterate what I just went over, a bear market is basically a series of hollow candlestick charts in which the moving price is going down. And then you have your bull market, in which is quite the opposite of the bear market, in which you have a series of solid filled candlesticks in which the price is moving up. Now, the key thing to take away from this is that when you see these candlestick charts, the length of the body itself is going to have a huge role in indicating how quickly that market's going to move in the up or downward trend. Now, in the stock market, you generally talk about the market as a whole in the long run, but RuneScape moves pretty quick and prices change quite rapidly, just like the stocks, but RuneScape is, again, like first grade. So when you're talking about the market, you're really going to be talking about an item in general. So you could be saying this item is acting bullish or this item is acting bearish. So now let's actually look at some charts so we can further visualize on how to read these graphs and use them to our advantage. Now, as we can see here, the information is quite clear and easily readable for us to use. So let's go over some examples of some charts that we wouldn't be able to use. Here we have a chart that's pretty chaotic. Obviously, we can't learn anything off of this. We have something that's quite the opposite. And then something in between in which the data points are too spread out and there's not really anything we can learn off of this. So this is clearly something you guys want to look for. And if you guys see anything else, then just refer back to our line graphs. And as the charts that I showed earlier, you guys should know that this chart is 100% still in beta. So we already know that this is an issue. So don't try contacting us in the comments down below, emailing us, contacting us through Discord or on Reddit, letting us know that the chart isn't working across all platforms. We already know that, and we're continuously trying to work on improving it. That's why it's labeled as beta. But before I get into this chart itself, I wanted to go over the fact that when you hover over a data point, you're going to get two sets of information. On the left-hand side, you have your low and high, and on the right-hand side, you have your opening and closing. Now, if you look at the left-hand side of this chart, you're going to see that there are a series of solid bodies that are quite thin, which is going to make the price move up in a slow trend, which is a bullish market, but it's a slow bull market. And then all of a sudden, you have a series of hollow bodies, and they're pretty significant in length, which would indicate that the price is going to move down in a quick fashion. Now you might say to yourself or ask me, saying that, hey, there are a few solid bodies here that are pretty significant in length, why didn't the price continue to move up? Well, we can get a few predictions here with a few hollow bodies that are more significant in length than their counterparts earlier on, which is going to help you make that prediction on whether or not this price is going to move down. And even though we had this one solid body here that was pretty significant in length, we had two more shortly after, which is going to help you guys predict whether or not this is going to move up or down. So keep that in mind. This had a slow bull market in the beginning, and it had a pretty heavy bearish market soon after. And then another example, we have a pretty slow bull market in which the bodies are pretty thin and solid. And all of a sudden we have some pretty thick solid bodies here that made the price move up in a very quick fashion. And then all of a sudden it kind of just evened out between the hollow and solid bodies. So in summary, guys, don't get discouraged if this information is quite confusing at first. That's why I made a video on this in the first place. So you guys can always refer back to this as many times as you guys want and try and get yourself out of that beginner and average stage and into the mastermind category. Always keep working at it, and most importantly, don't give up. Now, if you guys want to learn a little bit more about candlestick charts, I'm going to leave a few links down below so you guys can further read up on that. Clearly, this is something that's not an easy topic to talk about in a short video, and I could obviously talk about this for a few hours. But if you guys want to further read up on that, they're going to be in the links down below. And I was going to include the Old School RuneScape bond winners from our Christmas giveaway at the end of this video, but I decided that I wanted to keep this clutter-free and keep this purely informational, so you guys always want to refer back to this. You guys can, without any worries that you guys aren't missing out on anything. So that's going to be the end of the video, guys. If you guys did like this video, be sure to leave a like down below. Be sure to comment and let me know what type of videos you guys want to see in the future. Good luck merching, guys. Be sure to subscribe, and until next time.